What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 20. Is it 23?
23.
23 episodes of the Flight Time podcast. I know it's been a little bit, but we've both been just really busy. Lots of drone releases and events to attend. And we were just at CES this past week.
Yeah, this year, dude, it's funny because coming from the last CES, the only drone product that we got was the smart controller, and now this year we've got 4 brand new drones. But I wanna take the time to talk about one of them, and that's the Autel Evo 2, because I think that while there's a lot of really great competition out there, this is like the first time that the Mavic has been, in my opinion, truly dethroned.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. I mean, I knew this was coming from last year. We just didn't know when, and just overall just sort of watching things unfold. But I think my expectations were exceeded when I got to the booth and actually started understanding the specifications on the drone and just overall looking at the build quality and what they were able to achieve. Just via suggestion from, obviously with the Evo 1. I think it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like they even took one part of the drone and then tried to make it excel and make it stand out in that one way. It is literally better in basically every single way. I can't think of one area where it doesn't excel over anything else on the market. Maybe the weight. I mean, that drone is pretty heavy.
I think the controller. I think that right now their biggest weakness is the fact that they didn't develop a new controller.
Yeah.
And you can see that as, you can see that multiple ways.
I forgot that they didn't make a new controller. That's such a bummer.
Yeah. I thought there was. Talks of a new controller. That's the only thing that I feel like they could have did better.
Yeah,
was make a new controller. Or just make it a little bit better.
You just expect them to make a new controller, right? Like, it's a second generation.
But you know what's weird? When I picked this controller up, it feels, even though they're saying it's the same, you can feel like they made a couple of little ergonomical changes that are small enough that you just feel when it's in hand. One of the biggest issues with the original controller was the pins on the antennas kept backing out. I also asked them about that, and they told me like there was no, like they haven't had that issue since the second generation of the first Evo.
Well, like the second batch?
Yeah. Basically, they did a couple of changes to the tolerances on the pins and certain components that they had issues with on the first one, like the fairings on the first Evo. People were saying there was cast-in cracks and things like that. So they were able to fix a lot of those things. Well, and then they eliminated those weaknesses on this version.
In case anybody is living under a rock and hasn't seen what the Evo 2 offers yet, we're getting 3 different versions. It's the same airframe, just 3 different cameras. And the great thing about this is that we can swap these cameras out. So you can buy one airframe and then you can purchase multiple cameras and swap them out yourself. Now, with the Mavic 2, you could do that. Like, you could swap it out yourself. But I don't think
it wasn't like really condoned, though. They weren't like, you can swap your cameras out on your own. Like,
you
can do this without voiding your warranty.
Exactly. And when I was talking with some of the guys at Autel, I was like, how do you do this? It seemed pretty easy. Like, it seemed like something you could do in literally under 45 seconds. So with that said, the 3 different cameras, one of them has a 1/2-inch sensor, which can shoot 8K video, which is just insane. The next one is the 1-inch sensor, which shoots 20 megapixel photos and up to 6K video. And then we've got that FLIR camera. It's the thermal camera. So one of them is that 8K sensor that we get, the 1/2-inch sensor that shoots 8K video. The photos are 8,000 by 6,000. And then the FLIR camera is up to 640 resolution, which is huge for a drone of that size. In my video, I made the error of comparing it to the XT2, except I don't think that this sensor...
This is not radiometric.
Yes, exactly. That's the one thing. But here's the thing, is like, if you're talking about a drone that's going to be used for anything other than like work that you need radiometrics for, this is the drone to get. If you're doing search and rescue, this is the drone. If you're doing any sort of like just inspection that doesn't have to do with like solar panels, like roof inspections, this is the one to get.
Yeah, I think you can get away with, like, if you're doing like appraisal roof inspections or something like that, or just trying to determine where hotspots, you can probably get away with that. But yeah, anything that requires data off of the thermals would be the only downfall. And I'm sure they're going to get to the point where they'll be able to get sensors that can provide data. But of all the cameras, that's going to be the most expensive on that thermal.
Yeah, well, they're also
they won't
offering
even
one.
quote a price.
They're one that's they're offering one that's half the resolution, which is just 320 instead of 640, right?
Yeah. So technically, there's going to be two variants of thermal.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard figures tossed around, but I mean, it's going to be more, but it's going to be more, but it's less than still if you would go with like something like an XT2.
Yeah,
you're going to be probably like $5,000 or $6,000 less than that.
Yeah, and look at the Evo in general, like the airframe. It's so much smaller, a lot easier to carry. The flight time, I'd say, is probably better or somewhat on par with what the Matrice offers, depending on like what payload you're carrying.
And you can take it on a plane.
Yeah, I mean, think about how small this drone is. Like inside of one case, you can have like a couple batteries, 3 different cameras to do 3 different lines of work, and the drone. And that's just in a case that's probably like as big as something you might carry a Phantom in around, you know?
Exactly, and I think that's really underestimated as well. Is just the size. Now it is bigger than the first generation, and a bit heavier too. But I think with the weight comes a better battery.
Yeah, it's 7,100 milliamp hours.
So it's exactly 3,000 milliamps more than the previous generation, which is absolutely incredible that they were able to do that.
And they have now 12 dedicated optical sensors to detect obstacles. So instead of having like only one on the sides and an infrared on the top like the Mavic 2 has, you've got 2 on the front, 2 on the bottom, 2 on each side, and 2 on the top.
They are crazy aggressive.
Yeah, and they showed some like Skydio like flying. God, if I get this drone, I don't know if I would have the balls to test it just because.
So here's what I talked to with one of the engineers. This year, for just the obstacle avoidance, it has its own separate processing unit for the obstacle avoidance. With I believe it's got a dual core processor that's handling the obstacle avoidance only. So its sole task is to power the algorithm on the obstacle avoidance, and that was one of the things that they felt like they did poorly in the Evo 1 was the obstacle avoidance was okay, but it wasn't great, and the tracking capabilities were nowhere near on par with, let's say, what DJI had.
Well, at the end of the day, man, I'm not buying this drone to do any of that. There might be some people out there.
Exactly.
So look, it's great that they put that in there to try and compete, but at the end of the day, that's just something that doesn't really upset me too much. But you had some time with the 8K version of the Evo. So how about you give us, I guess, a little bit of insight as to what it's like shooting the 8K video, what it's like editing it, how big are the files? I mean, what did you see when you got to fly that drone out in Vegas?
So I'll tell you exactly. Matter of fact, I saved files from it, just trying to work through everything. But so first off, 8K is just insane. Like. I don't even like, I was trying to understand like why you would need 8K, and I understand now why you would need 8K. Just for the simple ability to punch in on objects and not really lose any resolution. But the 8K image holds so much color and so much detail.
It looked beautiful in the video that you uploaded.
I feel like I was really trying, and the shutter was cranked pretty hard too, because there's no ND filters right now. But even with all that, I was still able to, and that's right off the SD card, no color correction or anything.
Wow.
I felt like just by making sure I manually adjusted that shutter the best I could, it wasn't that hard to get like a really solid image. Like one of the things I noticed right off the bat was the color science. It was very, like, it almost to me reminded me of an RE camera. Like that really sort of creamy, like blues and whites, like it just looked amazing.
Yeah, and I agree with that statement after watching the video that you uploaded. I mean, maybe they're not compared like apples to apples 1-to-1, but I love the colors that come from the Skydio. They just seem to be so perfect and something that I don't need to do much work on. And I got that same feeling when I saw the footage come from the Autel Evo. Even better so, like I would prefer that 10 times out of 10 over my Mavic 2 for shooting video. What about like the file sizes? Were they crazy big or were they manageable?
So I'm actually looking at one right now. Let me see how long this clip actually was. So for a 51-second clip, it was 759 megabytes for a 51-second clip.
Okay, well,
So
so you're looking at maybe 850 megabytes per 1 minute, which is definitely,
basically,
it's sizable. It's definitely bigger than what you got on out of like
so here's one
Mavic.
that's 1.5, and that was a minute and 37 seconds. Was 1.5. Kodak was recorded in H.264.
Does this have H.265?
It does have H.265, but you can shoot H.264 as well.
That's nice.
Color profile was HD 1:1, so I mean it wasn't in 10-bit, but it does have the option to do that.
When you were flying it, how did it feel? Like, I think of the Mavic 2 Pro as the best flying drone I own right now. It just does exactly what I tell it to. It's so smooth. What did you think flying the Evo in comparison to like Mavic?
So with the only exception, the controller, like when I first flew, I was like, ah, crap, I got to adjust my, sticks. Like it's harder to fly with it's harder to pinch with the Evo than it is anything else. So it's easier to fly the Evo with the thumbs, but it felt like the yaw, like when you were able to yaw, it was much smoother. I felt like with the Evo, I always had to be really like sort of feather it and had to fine tune it. But this gimbal is much more refined. The other thing that was really nice, there was no horizon tilt or anything weird right out of the gate. And the gimbal just responded much better. And the pitch, like, I don't know, just simple things that you get with DJI just when flying. This did really well. It's also really fast. Like it doesn't take anything to really flip it over into ludicrous mode and just rip it. So really fast.
That's the one area where they didn't really like go crazy is with the speed. I would have loved to see them make the drone faster, but I wouldn't have wanted that at the cost of a gimbal that doesn't perform well at those high speeds. And I think that's probably the biggest issue that people were having with that first Evo is the fact that the gimbal just sucked. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to master because just like we saw from DJI with their original Mavic Pro, that gimbal sucked too. It was horrible.
Yeah, that was one of the things that they did say that they wanted to improve was the way the gimbal was designed, and just to allow it to not affect the overall use of the drone, which I think they were able to achieve, at least with the 8K. Not really sure about the 1-inch on the 6K, but I would imagine it's probably somewhat similar. Another thing that they fixed too is right out of the gate you can hand launch this drone. Because that was one of my biggest gripes is you had to go in and turn on boat mode. But now the way the gimbal calibrates itself, you can just hand launch it, no problems.
I guess the final thing that I'm curious about, and probably other people are curious about, is how did that transmission hold up? I guess you probably weren't flying it far.
Freaking phenomenal.
Then again, you were out in the middle of nowhere.
I was in the middle of nowhere. I had zero obstructions, but we only had one battery. So when it was all said and done, like I was able to fly like that helicopter chase that like I had at the beginning. That was actually them leaving, and I was able to tail him just about to his hangar.
Wow.
Which was about 4 miles. Because we figured, well, if it runs out of battery, and I have to land somewhere, like there was nothing out there, we would have found it, but luckily that didn't happen. But I was able to get there and back 4 miles, no issue whatsoever, issue whatsoever, which is sick.
That's so awesome.
They really I asked them, I said, what's different on the internals of the controller, and what's crazy is nothing. All the improvements for transmission signal and video signal happened on the drone.
Wow.
So that's pretty incredible, I think.
Yeah, it is. I know that I've seen a lot of comments of people saying that this thing looks big and chunky, and
Who cares what it looks like? When it's in the air, you don't see it.
That's true, and I'm not talking about like the aesthetic look of it, but just the fact that like the design of it is a little bit bigger, just to accommodate the sensors, the bigger battery, the larger camera, and stuff like that. At the end of the day, if this drone is a little bit heavier than the last one, but it offers so much more, like the better camera, the longer flight time, also all those sensors, I mean, it's a win in my opinion. Like, why would you say, oh, I wish it was 300 grams lighter, but then you're sacrificing flight time?
You know what that reminds me of is the argument like with Apple, like I always want a better battery life. Well, to achieve better battery life, you're going to get a thicker iPhone. I'm okay with a thicker iPhone as long as I get better battery life. So the same is applying here. You know, they had to go a little bit thicker, but I think in terms, they made a little bit more of a robust drone. You know, just in holding it and looking over the ESCs and understanding the new battery compartment, I like it. I did wish they would have put the button up top or something, because I always have a tendency of turning on the drone in my bag, especially the Evo. That's always one that did it to me. One thing I absolutely hate about the 8K is the gimbal guard. It's probably the most fiddly gimbal guard I've ever, I mean, it was the most frustrating piece of this drone was the gimbal guard. And plus two, it's a hard plastic. It's not like last year's plastic. So when you squeeze it, you're almost like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to break it type of thing.
Well, so we've got these two drones, and there's the thermal sensor, but I'm just going to leave that out to the side for now, because if you're looking at purchasing a drone, one of which is going to be shooting 6K video with the bigger sensor, higher megapixel count. No, wait, does it have a higher megapixel count? What is the megapixels on the smaller one?
48 megapixels on the 8K, and I believe 21 on the 6K.
So if just from looking at the specs, you already got a chance to see the 8K, but you haven't flown the 6K one yet. What are you thinking in terms of camera? Like, which one would you lean towards to purchase?
Oh man, you know, if money was not an issue ever, you know, I would say the 6K. But again, I haven't flew the 6K. Just overlooking the 8K footage, and just, you know, the megapixels and in the stills, and like the detail in the stills, and just what it can do. And again, I haven't seen what it can do at night, but it, you know, the 8K is more than enough, you know, for a lot of people. And some people were saying to me like, oh, you have to have a supercomputer to edit this. And I was killing my MacBook trying to edit the full resolution 8K files, and I was downsampling them to 4K. But if you make proxies for all this, it's like, it goes like butter if you're using you know, Premiere Pro. Obviously with Final Cut, I was able to just load the 8K images right into my MacBook, and it was like no problem.
I bet.
Like, no stutter. But you know, the end result is you're taking 4K, twice as many pixels, cramming it into this, you know, 4K image, and it just like, it looks so beautiful. It looks so beautiful.
And think about it this way. I mean, think about the amount of digital zoom you could essentially get if you're going to export in 1080p. I mean, it's like an 8 times digital zoom.
Crazy. Oh my gosh, it's I couldn't imagine how much depth you would get downsample in 1080p. It'd be almost unreal. Now there is one downfall with it, like the bit rate on the 8K footage tops out at 120 megabits.
Yeah. And
some people are like, oh, that's not enough, but you know, bit rate's, you know, somewhat subjective. You know, I don't think you're going to be sitting there really pushing it. It's obviously not going to be ProRes, you know, like you're not going to get ProRes quality off this. I mean, this is still crazy good for a portable drone.
Well, if you wanted to somehow get a higher bit rate, then you might be looking at needing something else to write on other than just an SD card.
You need CFast cards.
Yeah, either CFast or go the Inspire route, the SSD, but I think that's too big to put inside of such a small portable drone. So you kind of have to look at it as you're still having certain sacrifices in place because of the fact that it's a foldable drone. Now, if you're looking at something like the Evolve 2, which is bigger, obviously, and has a CFast slot, the reason it can accommodate this is because it's got a larger airframe and has more room to fit something like a CFast slot in, whereas that amount of room is probably very valuable inside of a drone like the Evo. So, you know, again, we're always talking about how, well, if they just make it a little bit bigger, then you can get this certain functionality. Sometimes you got to bring it to like an end. Like, once you continue to say, oh, we'll add this, just make it a little bit bigger. Well, then we're talking about having a huge foldable drone. So you do have to draw the line somewhere. And the fact that we can still get 8K footage and the fact that it looks as good as it does, I can't wait to get that drone, because I can tell you right now that I have my peak design set up to hold a Mavic 2, and I think I'm going to have to accommodate a little bit more room to replace that Mavic 2.
Yeah, you know, if that 6K comes sooner rather than later, that's definitely the route that I want to go.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking that's going to replace my Mavic 2 Pro for real estate. Oh, and they changed the focal lengths on the lenses. So you remember how like the Evo was notorious for that really wide field of view?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it was cool, but like there was nothing dramatic about it. So on all of these lenses, they're now 26 to like 30 millimeters. Is basically what my understanding is. When I looked at the lens cap, it was 26 millimeters, but I immediately noticed that the field of view sort of a little bit more narrow, I guess, but a little bit tighter than DJI's. Look better.
And I agree.
It looked so much better.
Think about it this way. I know that you are flying with a beta version of the app, but I hope that they add some sort of digital zoom feature so that you can just
there is digital zoom there.
Okay. So here's the thing is that even if you are shooting at 8K and you punch into 4K, what is the field of view at that point in time? Because you can always just crop it in post. That's no problem. But the thing is, like, then you're not really looking at what you're shooting and you might not be able to frame it up properly. So in my mind, just like how you're going to be shooting in the high quality mode with DJI's Mavic 2 Pro and how it punches in, I'd love to still see that on the Evo and then be able to get up close to things. I mean, that'd just be epic.
I think they'll let it happen. I mean, from everything that I saw, I felt that this was as complete as of a competitor that we're ever going to see. Another thing too that I really liked is the application was the ability to use voice commands to the application as you're flying. Such a game changer.
Wait, what was that?
Voice commands, like
really?
You talk to the application.
No way. That's something I've been wanting for a long time.
Yeah, you can talk to the application and tell it to land and stuff. I mean, that was in the app. I don't know if that's going to be there to stay, but it was definitely there because at first I'm like, what the hell? Who am I talking to?
Yeah.
Because I thought I was like accidentally triggering Google. But then I look closer and I'm like, no, this is in the application.
Were you flying with the Pixel?
What's that? Yeah, I was flying with the Pixel.
Okay. So I guess it's not in beta version yet for iOS?
No, non-beta version for iOS. Yeah, I can send an APK if you want to check it out.
You know,
it doesn't do much when it's not connected.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But you can at least overall get a look at it.
Is it a totally separate app?
No, that's the cool thing. They are not making another application, which is smart because then they only have to support one app, and then app updates won't be affected. So
that makes things easier.
It flies the Explorer app, and if you have the Evo 1, you just toggle over to Evo 1. If you have Evo 2, you toggle over to Evo 2. Just that easy.
That's
so
really
everybody's going to get a nice app update. And I would imagine that maybe that same voice command deal that I was seeing would be in the new version.
That'd be cool.
For everybody else. It would be cool because it was a game changer. I thought it was pretty cool flying hands-free.
The type of thing that you can do with that, I mean, even just as you're flying, ask it to like set your return to home height to a certain
or
level.
Your shutter speed or your ISO.
Yeah, I mean, those are easier because you have the little wheels and the different knobs on the controller, but instead of digging through the settings and setting your return to home altitude or setting these different actions, would just be so nice to do with your voice. I mean, think about how much of our lives are taken over by voice now with Siri, Google, Alexa, all these different things. So it's really great that we now have the opportunity to do that within our drones. I see it like also happening in the Mercedes too. In a Mercedes, you can actually like tell it to do certain things. So it's cool. I think that it's helpful, and especially with a drone when you've just got to put all your focus into flying that thing, just using your voice is just going to make things even easier. Here's something that I'm interested in, right? With that 6K drone, I'm guessing that the color science is going to be the same, maybe give or take across both drones. Maybe could even look better with this 6K sensor, the Pro camera. But think about how DJI has implemented Hasselblad's color science into the Mavic 2 Pro's camera, and the resolution of the photos are essentially the same. I wonder which one is going to be better. I that's going to be something I can't answer right now.
Just firing off some test shots, like just generalized test shots. I don't know. I sort of like what I saw, but then again, the desert can be deceiving. Like the hues, the desert makes everything look really good.
Yeah.
So it's going to be taking it and getting it into like contrasty situations, like by the beach or the city's a great backdrop because it sort of gives you a good idea of like the color and the saturation, what you're already used to. But I feel like it definitely reminds me of Blackmagic's color science. That's the best way I could describe it anyways.
Gotcha. Well, the Evo 2, in my opinion, is going to I mean, it hasn't come out yet, so that's why I'm saying it in the future tense. It is definitely going to dethrone the Mavic, and nobody really knows what DJI has in store for us. We don't have.
Well, and that's what is sort of throwing me off, because I feel like there was 2 missiles launched at CES. Obviously, the comeback kid, the the X Dynamics Evolve, another beast that we'll talk about eventually. And then, of course, you've got the Evos, and the Evo hit 3 different ways. So it's hacking the Mavic lineup on all fronts.
Yeah.
Basically, the 8K made the Mavic 2 zoom obsolete, because that to me would be the equivalent of the zoom.
Exactly.
And
you
then
can just
you have,
digital zoom.
Exactly. And now you have the Evo Pro, which takes direct aim at the Mavic 2 Pro with 6K, 4K 60, 6K up to 30 frames per second. So pretty impressive.
Yeah,
pretty impressive stuff.
And then X Dynamics is taking a swing at the Inspire lineup, and I don't think it's quite there. Like, there still is a little bit more versatility out of the Inspire lineup with the camera that can rotate 360 degrees, the dual operator support, the fact that you can purchase a camera that shoots 6K, so it's higher resolution than what you can get with with the Evolve. But there's a lot of these.
But if you think about it, the bang, value. If you think about a drone taking you down to Value Town, the X Dynamics is as close as you're going to get for the price. $36.99. You're getting like a cinema grade drone basically for a fraction of the cost. Of basically what you're just going to get an airframe, and maybe a controller. But I think CES was really phenomenal this year for us, which is sort of sad because with that remote ID going on.
I know.
One thing that I found in common between all of the manufacturers is nobody really knew how they were going to handle this. I think DJI right now has the best grasp of this remote ID.
They've always been prepared for what's next.
Right. So I feel like for me, if I was going to invest in a really expensive drone today, I would feel most confident in putting my money with DJI. Even though the Evo 2 is amazing, I would still feel more confident, just knowing what's coming.
Yeah, well, DJI has had remote ID built into their drones since the Spark. I mean, you could go into the DJI Go app and it's right there. You had the option to not even fill anything out, but it just shows that they're future-proofing their drones. So should there be some sort of thing that needs to be implemented in older drones, it would suck to buy the Evo 2 and then almost immediately, depending on when this goes into effect, having to potentially send it in and maybe get it upgraded or something added to it. Now, maybe they'll say something like all drones manufactured after this date needs to have this technology put in, so you could be before the cusp. I could see them doing something like that. But I really quickly want to get back to the Evolve, and I just had something on my mind. When you buy the Inspire 2, so I say it's a money pit, but in a good way, because there's so many accessories you can buy for it, and you need to almost buy all of them in order to make it operate properly. So when you pick up the Evolve 2, it's got a CFast card. I'm guessing that an adapter in order to plug it into your computer is going to be fairly inexpensive. But with the Inspire 2, you need to get the SSD, and then you need to get an SSD reader. Also, you need to think about if you want one flight out of the drone, you need to buy 2 batteries. The Sendence remote is expensive. The Crystal Sky is expensive. The lenses for the expensive camera are expensive. So the Inspire 2, if you try to compare it directly to the Evolve 2, it might be a little bit more expensive. But if you want to fully kit out an Inspire 2, you could easily spend $25,000-$30,000 without even the blink of an eye.
Oh, easy, and that's not without even breaking a sweat. You can drop that much money. I mean, and that's why I really do think we're going to see a Mavic 3 event very soon. Very soon.
They have to. Because
they can't not respond to this.
I mean, look, the Inspire 2 is pretty old, but it's still chugging along as probably one of the greatest all-in-one cinema drones that you can buy. The Phantom line is pretty much, even though they brought the Phantom 4 Pro V2 back, that's kind of done with. And the Mavic lineup, the Evo lineup totally made the Mavic 2 obsolete. Right now, if somebody says, oh, what drone should I buy without even flying the Evo yet, I would tell them to save their money and buy the Evo and not a Mavic, because it offers so much more in every single category.
It really does. And the price, when you look at the price, like what did we pay for the Mavics when they first came out? Mavic 2 Pro was
$1450.
like $1450, and I think it went up to $1549 at one point.
And
at
now
its
it's
highest.
$1729.
And now it's $1729. So think about that in comparison. They are taking direct shots at DJI. I mean, direct. Like the pricing is so competitive, and then that's also going to drop the Evo 1 pricing by probably $100 or so.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they're going to have probably the most robust drone lineup right now, with the exception of the only thing that can make them stronger is if they had a smaller drone at this point.
I agree.
I mean, if Autel says, in the next, say 6 months, Evo 2 is doing good, and say, well, we're going to make Evo Mini, I'm going to tell you right now, that could be huge. So huge. They have a lot of directions to move right now.
Yeah, that is DJI's strongest point, is that they literally have a drone for everybody. Their lineup is so strong and it's so massive that it covers so many different angles. But I think that Autel came in at probably the area where most drone operators sit, and that's like wanting to purchase the Mavic 2 Pro. I know a ton of people probably bought the Mavic Mini, which is great. And maybe Autel can jump in and try and capture a good portion of new pilots. But like at the end of the day, when you're looking to get a great drone that makes no compromises, you're looking at Autel with their Evo 2. It's not even a question.
Can't even say anything different about that. I mean, that's the reality of it. And I know it's like people will say, you're fanboying out. You guys haven't really got a chance to fly it.
Dude, I have been flying DJI only drones because they've been the best for 3 years now, and I've gotten pinned as a DJI fanboy, which is fine. And my response is always that I fly the best. And now that Autel just dropped this on us, I'm flying the Autel Evo. Like that is the best drone out there right now.
Right, and we don't have to deal with all the crazy crap that you get from DJI. A lot of the restrictions. I'm not saying you do anything illegal, but still, convenience factor of being able to get every single job done, and you don't have to sit there and play this unlock game, I think is really huge.
Or have to worry that there's going to be a bug in the app that doesn't let you unlock, because I know that happens to a lot of people.
And some people would say Autel is directly sort of copying DJI, and to an extent, like there's some similarities, but I think what they're doing is they're trying to outclass them. Yeah, they're trying to do it better. Like okay, you guys did this good, but I think we can do this better.
Absolutely,
it's beautiful competition. We needed more of this a long time ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's turning into an arms race almost. And you know what? That's something that I didn't even think about, that there's no geozones within Evo's software or Autel software. And I can say that it's never personally affected me. Like I've never been in a situation where I want to fly and I can't, which I'm happy to say so. But I've always had, just in case, like I get my authorization and I go to fly and I can't, I've always had a backup Parrot Anafi inside of my bag. But regarding the Evo, or I guess regarding flight restrictions, the only time that I've ever really been bothered by them is when you and I were flying out near the Bethlehem Steel Stack, and there was like an approach pattern, and we like right in the middle of the stacks, we couldn't fly over 200 feet, which was a total buzzkill, and we didn't see a single manned aircraft that entire time. So I think that DJI could take a lesson and take a page out of Autel's book, and if they're going to impose these flight restrictions, they need to be on it, and they need to make sure that everything is accurate, and they need to make sure that they include some sort of timing on these flight restrictions. If there's a certain time where maybe there's no activity going on, that the flight restrictions aren't in place. And I think that everything is going to get a lot better with ADS-B when it comes out, which it's 2020 now, so anything that DJI releases from here on out will have ADS-B on board, which is great.
Yeah, I do think having that's going to make a big difference, but all in all, we'll have to see how these other manufacturers really come on board with that, because when I asked them directly, nobody seemed to have a plan. So I'm hoping that's something that they do address just for future. But I think too right now everything's too in the early stages to really get concerned with stuff like that right now.
Did you see that Osita was like kind of salty on Twitter?
Yeah. And see, and again, like it makes me wonder, like, what is your tie to DJI that you would even take offense that another manufacturer produced. The only thing I would say is like if you're over there, you're probably not going to get your hands on one of these. You're just probably not.
Yeah, you're right. I wonder if the software would even work over there, if it's even available in their app store.
Well, you know what's fun? Here's what's funny on the application and on the controller. It's in Mandarin, because when they gave me the unit, I was really pissed that I had to give it back, because I was like, like seriously, like what the hell? So I put it back in Mandarin.
Well,
I was like, if I got to give this to somebody else, it's going back.
Well, so look, the Evo 2 looks like just a phenomenal drone from top to bottom. I can't wait to get my hands on one, and I can't wait to fly it. I mean, Ken, all the areas we've flown up here.
I can't wait to go back to the areas that we couldn't fly or we had issues flying, and like try it out.
Like, I'm just thinking, like, in one foul swoop, hitting Philly, hitting the Croton Dam, hitting Bethlehem Stacks, just hitting these insane spots, which, you know what's funny is I know you want to come up here when it's like all cold and wintertime and experience it, but dude, it's like 66 degrees out. it's
yeah, but you know what, that can change. Like, I've learned my lesson with the Northeast. Like, we've been up there, driving around, and next thing you know, we're in like a snowstorm.
Yeah, I think that I
should come up like now though. Maybe I should come up in February.
Well, I think that after this week, it's supposed to get pretty cold, but don't come up until you get to Evo, because once we get Evos,
no, I'm not gonna burn this trip.
Yeah.
But I got to go up there because I got to get my cheesesteak fixed and everything else.
Don't let the wife get mad at you.
No, she's like, yeah, go ahead. Like, she's good with it now. Like,
wow.
I think I've been home for 24 hours. Cool. Yeah, she don't care. As long as I'm not spending money, I
got a
cool.
drawer for you here at my place.
I know, I got a drawer. I got a whole drawer. What's Francesca think of that?
She's fine with it, but she's just kind of upset that you're taking her place, or not her place, but her space. Like, she's like, I'm trying to put my shoes in there and I can't.
No, I got like more shoes than she does.
Well, so the Evo looks great, guys, and I think that there's a lot more to be talked about once these drones get in our hands. Right now, they're producing the 8K version, so like the base model. It's so crazy to think that 8K is the base model.
Can you imagine, like, what the... That's your base model drone.
I know, right? And
that's so nuts.
It's expected to come in at like $1,500, that 8K version, and then we're looking at like maybe a $1,749 price for the Pro version.
$1,495 on 8K, and then $1,795 on 6K.
Okay, and those, in my opinion, are absolutely fair prices. There's no part of me that says, well, I wish it was a little less expensive. I think that when DJI released like their price increases on the Mavic 2, it left a bad taste in my mouth, even though I was able to buy it at the lower price. So I guess I'm happy about that. But even though I look at what the Evo delivers, I can totally understand why they're pricing it higher than what the Mavic 2 offers, because it outclasses it.
Imagine if they offer a trade-in program on these cameras. So if you buy one, you can get the other. I mean, if they do that,
well, they're going to sell the camera separately. So if I buy them,
right.
Autel Evo 2,
say,
I can buy the Pro version.
We're going to give you credit.
It's just great to be able to have that one airframe and swap back and forth between with that single camera.
Key. It's so key. So it's going to be cool to see how they really implement this, though.
Yeah,
it makes me wonder.
I agree too, and I guess it's now. I mean, if there's like a case manufacturer out there like GPC that can make a great case that holds the cameras, a couple batteries, and like the tools you need to swap out the cameras, because you do need like a smaller screwdriver, but still.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's there, man. Matter of fact, I just talked to Zach about that today.
That dude, and that's money, because I could see myself having like 10 batteries.
Did you say something to him about that at dinner that night?
No, I don't think I did.
I swear, like he just like we literally just hung up. He had a call with GPC. Like they're literally doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's almost a no-brainer to incorporate some sort of case that carries everything, because like think about it, you leave the house for the day with that one drone, and you can literally accomplish anything that you need to. You don't need to bring a secondary drone for really anything.
No, I think that's going to be absolutely clutch, especially for many professionals that do this, full time. I mean,
I agree. Guys,
I'm so stoked.
come on over to Twitter. My handle is at Billy Kyle. Ken is at Original Dobo. Let us know what you guys think of the Evo. We'll be talking a little bit over there prior to this episode going up. So go ahead and check us out on those two platforms because that's the best way to get in touch with us. DM us, tweet at us, whatever, and we can talk about the Evo too because, I mean, right now it's kind of all talk. And once we get these drones in hand, it's going to be really fun to just share experiences with you guys, compare the two cameras, compare it to what's already offered with the Mavic 2, because even though this drone is kind of slotting in at the same level as the Mavic 2, I could see a lot of people potentially wanting to upgrade their Mavic 2 to this Autel Evo 2 because I think that it's an upgrade.
Absolutely.
Ken,
I think I think that's gonna wrap it up. I think it's a good recap of this one, and I think we should do one of these for each drone that we got our hands on this past week.
Yeah, you know what? Out of all these drones, man, the coolest one in my opinion is that Power Vision Power Egg X, which that's gonna be a fun episode. So stay tuned, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Later.